Hi all, thanks for joining us today. My name is Chantal Walker and I'm the Chief Member Experience and Growth Officer here at ActiveSuper. Before we commence, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here with us today. I also need to acknowledge that any information presented today is general in nature. Today's webinar is sure to be a fascinating insight into the world of scamming and the innovative methods that are used to trick us, to gain our confidence and to hand over our money or personal information. Australians literally lose billions of dollars a year to scammers. In 2021 alone, around $700 million was lost in investment scams alone. Scammers rely on building trust to dupe their targets out of money. They gain access to information in a variety of innovative ways, from phishing emails, text messages, robocalls, creating false online stores, brands and agencies, which then take your money but do not deliver the product. In more complex scams, fraudsters befriend their targets on social media using false profiles with the aim to build your trust, gain your friendship, and eventually con their victims into providing access to their superannuation, bank accounts, credit cards, and other personal records. As this is such an important and pressing issue for all of us here at ActiveSuper and our members, we thought it'd be very worthwhile to have a cybersecurity expert come and talk to us all about the different types of scams and data breaches, and more importantly, the steps you can take to protect yourself against potential IT fraud and cyber risks. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Sarah Morrison. She's the Managing Consultant from our external cybersecurity consultancy, Loop Secure. Dr. Morrison has a PhD in cyber warfare, sounds very grand, and is the Chief Information Security Officer for Loop Secure, a cybersecurity firm. Her role is to help protect the information of people and organizations like ActiveSuper. To set the scene, Sarah is going to spend some time today discussing what cyber scams look like, how they're done, cover off why we're seeing so many of them, and importantly, she's going to share tips on how you can protect yourself from common scams and phishing techniques. We'll also have time for Q&A, so please feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A section on the right-hand side of your screen. Bear in mind, only the presenters can see your questions, so don't be shy and ask away. As they say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. So Sarah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Chantal. It's lovely to be here at ActiveSuper's HQ today, and as you pointed out, we've got lots to cover and some very important information for you all. I'll just navigate to the next screen. Sorry, we've got some technical difficulties here. Won't be a moment. I think one of us. There we go. Okay, apologies for that. Let's start with some not so fun facts. As Chantal alluded to, scamming is huge in Australia. So 3.6 billion phishing emails are actually sent out each day worldwide. That's a huge amount. So all those emails that you get in your email box that don't look quite right and you think that a scammer's been sending them to you, most likely it is, because 3.6 billion is a heck of a lot of emails. Australians experience over 6 million scams calls per month. So people are calling you up, scamming you, trying to get you to do things. In 2021, robo-text, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in a wee bit, cost Australians over $10 million in loss. In Australia last year, $2 billion was lost to scams, the greatest loss to date. And from that, $701 million in losses to investment scams. Cybercrime is here to stay and it does not discriminate. It can target anyone. Today we'll be looking at the how, the what, how and why a scam. So let's start with the what. So Common scams. There are many types of scams that will try and separate you from your money. On the screen at the moment, there are a list of them, and they're pretty self-evident. If you look at the name of the scam, that's what the scam is focusing on. So with COVID-19, from early 2020 onwards, we saw an increase of scam emails coming through, which focused on COVID-19, on your insecurities and people's actually being afraid of COVID. It would be things like, there's a COVID person in your area, be aware of this, trying to get personal information off you, trying to get people to give people money all around COVID. Buying and selling. This is when people are buying and selling goods that don't really exist or of poor quality. Dating and romance. They build trust. They rely on people to insecurities, trying to find that connection out there. Dating and romance has been around for a very long time, and I think it's actually one of the worst type of scams out there, because it's tricking people into something that's not real. It starts off with let's have a chat. You form a relationship with this person, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, I'm in a little bit of trouble, I need a little bit of money. And that request for money gets more and more and more, until people often find themselves not wanting to believe that they're being scammed. Fake charities, self-evident, people pretending to be a charity, your favourite charity, and you give money to them and the money's just going into their pocket. Investment scams, we're going to cover off an example that's going around at the moment with super funds, but again, that's just people thinking that they're investing their money into something real, but in actual fact it is a scam. Jobs and employment. With COVID and everyone being at home and online, a lot of scams started to emerge around jobs and employment, asking people to pay a particular administration fee in order to get this wonderful job where you're earning $3,000 a week. Threat and extortion type scams. Receive an email of someone saying that they have access to your computer and they've recorded everything that you've done over the last couple of weeks. Most likely this is actually not correct. It's a threat email. They're trying to trick you into paying a ransom or paying money. So please talk to someone with computer experience before you actually respond to this type of threat or extortion email. And last but not least, the unexpected money or winnings. These have been probably around the most longest. We know about the Nigerian prince scams years ago, where someone will be trying to contact you saying, I have all this money and I want to get out of the country. I'll pay you this huge sum of money if you help me get my money out of the country type thing. And these things are still happening. These type of scams are still happening. They're a lot more sophisticated these days, so. Sometimes it's really hard to identify a scam message, as a threat actor will try and steal your personal identifying information. So as Chantel in her introduction explained, it's not always money that people are after. Sometimes they'll send you an email and ask you for a little bit of personal information, and then a little bit more personal information, until they've got enough information to steal your identity, in which time they can take over your super fund or your bank account. So it's really important when receiving and responding to any type of information email, think about what information you're providing back. Scam delivery methods. Generally, scammers use any type of method they can. So phone calls, text messages, letters. I know who would think letters these days, but believe it or not, my mother got a scam letter recently, and I was just like, oh, wow, blown away. And of course, the phishing emails, which we'll hear a lot about. Scammers may use a variety of means to try and trick you, but each time the modus operandi, the way that they do it, is basically the same. There's generally a sense of urgency or scare tactics. Hey, if you don't do this, your bank account's going to be closed down. If you don't do this, your super fund will be closed. Impersonating a known brand or government agency. We see a lot of these, especially around banking. You could receive an email from ActiveSuper, but it's not really ActiveSuper. It could be from CBA, it could be from Westpac, any of the known brands that we constantly see on billboards around us. Scammers can disguise the phone number and the email addresses where the email or phone number is coming from. It's really easy to rename a phone number and an email address, so it looks like it's coming from somewhere legitimately, but in actual fact it's being spoofed. It's not really coming from that place at all. It makes it harder for us and the normal person to be able to identify these scam things. They could call, email or text you over and over again until you just get fed up. On the slide there's a picture. I constantly get these emails from loan confirmation, basically saying, hey, all I have to do is press this button and choose my account and $9,525 will be deposited. They are consistent, they are relentless. I'm never going to respond to them. I've blocked them, and I've also asked my computer to put these type of emails straight into the junk. The funny thing with scammers, though, they're very persistent, and now they're coming from different email addresses, so you've got to keep that in mind. Just ignore them. They could use robocalls, which are recorded messages, and I've got one here for you to all listen to, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
We tried to get in touch with you. We have detected that some fraudulent activities are going on over your connection. Hence, we have decided to block your internet and telephone line for some inquiry.
Some of you might go,
we tried to get in touch with you.
Again. Some of you might go, oh, that's really fake, but believe it or not, these type of robocalls or recorded messages work. People get a sense of urgency, they're scared, they're afraid that something's going to be cut off, the bank account's going to be closed, and they do respond. The same type of messages are seen in text messages. We call them robotext, where AI is used to send out an automatic message, and also to solicit personal information or payment. They will tell you lies and tell you stories. These are fraudulent people. These are scammers. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care if they're scaring you or making you feel uncomfortable. All they care about is payday. So generally, someone who's trying to scam you will tell you a lie and tell you a story. On the screen now, I've got some examples of scams, a nice variety. The first one is regarding a delivery. Everyone's shopping online at the moment, getting deliveries all the time. So with that, we saw an increase of scams targeting deliveries. Bendigo Bank, there was an issue with your account. If you clicked on that link, it would take you to a fraudulent website. Another new one that's popping up all over the place is new voicemail. So people are getting messages saying you have a voicemail, and they're asking you to click on the link to listen to the voicemail. That is a scam. It will try and download malware onto your phone, or in some instances, it will take you to a page where you have to insert your personal identifying information, such as your name or your date of birth, or confirm your email address. Going back to what I said earlier, they are trying to harvest information on you so they can take over your accounts or get a payday, basically. The one on the right, it looks to be from Amazon, and it looks to be a really nice message from Amazon saying, hey, you should never ever do A, B, and C in order to protect yourself. It's providing advice to you. This is a copy from an Amazon text message that came through, or an email but it's come through as text message. If you clicked on any of those Amazon links, it will take you straight to a fraudulent site. So again, even things that look really legitimate, like this message from Amazon telling you how to be safe, can actually be fraudulent. As mentioned, with everyone shopping online, we're getting a lot of we're seeing a lot of scams around delivery and the like, especially from Australia Post. On the screen now, we have a Australia Post email. Well, it looks like it's an Australian Post email, but in actual fact, it is fraudulent. If we have a look at a real Australian Post email, at the first glance, you might think the one on the left, hey, that looks pretty legitimate, and fraudsters rely on you to remember certain things. You can see the Australia Post symbol, you can see the little dotted line with the little blue circles, and the message that's coming today. That's enough to trick your brain into thinking it is actually a legitimate email address. But as you can see, there are a legitimate email, I should say. As you can see, there are differences. The logo is different. It's telling you where it's being delivered to. It's telling you who the shop is and what your tracking number is. There's a quick note to dog owners, and also regarding the information in the small print. In the fraudulent, it's extremely small print. That there are differences. So even if you think it's a legitimate email, we ask that you please double check it. And if you are expecting a package, don't click on the link in the email, the text message that you get sent. Just go directly to the Australian Post office site or the delivery site and enter in your tracking number that way. It's much better to be safe than sorry.
Sarah, I just want to interrupt you for a quick second.
Yes.
Looks like our Q&A function online is not working. So if you do have questions, if you could please email them while Sarah's chatting to events@activesuper.com.au, and then we'll respond to those at the end. Apologies for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chantel. Okay, so here we've got an email. Again, it looks legitimate. It's saying it's coming from FedEx, but remember how I said that people can name email addresses? Well, they've named this email address FedEx, but when we actually click on it and have a look, it's coming from a place called Package Delivery. If it was coming from FedEx, it would be coming from @FedEx, but as you can see, it's not. That's one way you can tell whether or not an email is fraudulent or not. If it looks too good to be true, here we've got early access to Squid Games, and a lot of people are getting emails to say you've got early access to music or a particular Netflix or other pay TV subscription coming to you, and you go, wow, it's wonderful. But the minute that you click on this Excel access file, you are downloading malware onto your computer. So again, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Now, this one is actually quite scary. I'm actually impressed by it. At the same time, I'm extremely scared by it. It's an extremely complex scam. If you look on the left-hand side at 5:06 p.m, this person got a message pretending to be from Amazon. And it's basically saying someone's logged onto your Amazon account and is attempting to buy 3 very expensive watches. Most people will look at that and go, hey, this is a fraudulent text message. I'm not going to actually respond to it. A couple of minutes later, 3 minutes later, the second text message came through pretending to be from ANZ, basically confirming that the purchase at Amazon is currently occurring, and then if it wasn't you, you need to click on this link immediately. This is a very complex scam. It is a scam though, and you need to be aware that fraudsters and scammers, their job is to find new ways to trick you. They don't go to work 9 to 5 like the rest of us. They spend their days at home trying to work out new elaborate ways to trick you. So it's really important that you take a moment to think. Having examined the what, let's move on to the how. So data breaches and phishing emails. Lots of people here, lots of, I'm sure I've heard the word data breach, the words data breaches floating around a lot. So what does that actually mean? We know that they're happening all the time, and it basically means that information that is stored by an application or a company is either lost or stolen, and then that information turns up on the black market for sale. All a scammer really needs to begin their scam is a phone number and email address. So your text message and an email address, and they can harvest those from most places. But with data breaches, it adds a personal touch to the scam. So the more data that's lost, the more susceptible you become to a targeted phishing campaign. Instead of the dear sir and dear madam, the scammers start to use your name. Hey, dear Frank, dear Susan, dear Mr. Jones. It becomes extremely personalised and also extremely difficult to realise whether or not the scam is legit or false, whether it is a scam or not. So looking at the terms spear phishing, it basically means it is a targeted attack on an individual. They're using your personal information against you to steal even further personal information or your money. As mentioned, they are harder to spot because they are more convincing and more relevant to you. So giving away personal information online can help a threat actor target you more accurately. So using the example here of Facebook, have a think about what you've actually put on your Facebook. Is your Facebook account locked? For starters, if not, then everyone can see perhaps where you went to high school, your friends, where you live, and maybe even your email address. A lot of the applications that we download now, they are collecting lots and lots of information on you. That often the terms and services will tell you what they're using this information for, but these terms and services are very difficult most times to read or very long. Or reality is we're looking at this app because we need this app and we're going to use it regardless. The Apple Store now provides a brief privacy rating for most apps. I haven't heard of Android doing this as yet, but as you can see with, again, the example of Facebook, you can see what information they're collecting on you. And it's a heck of a lot of information, health and fitness, financial, contact information. The scary thing is they're also collecting this information offline. So a lot of organisations now, you go into a store, you'll purchase something, they'll ask you to sign up to their awards program. You give them your phone number or your mobile address. They then on-sell that information to Facebook, and Facebook can automatically, with your phone number and address, attach that to you. So they know, wow, Sarah Morrison, she shops at this shop over here. She's got a Facebook account, so we can now do more targeted ads at her regarding that shop. And most people will think, okay, you know what, that is not a problem. I don't mind if you target ads that towards me of shops that I like. I love shopping at Maya. I don't mind if I get ads from Maya. The problem is we're not too sure how they're protecting that information. On that note, we're going to watch a little video now. I find this an extremely interesting video, and I hope you take away the meaning behind it.
Oh, hi, can I help?
Hot chocolate.
What's the name?
Joelle.
What was the name?
Alex.
Alex. There you go, Johnny.
Cheers.
If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry.
We have a new like for Damien. We have a new like for Damien.
Hey, Carly, you stand by?
Standing by. Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, just liked your Facebook page.
Okay, I'll search Facebook
I'm
now.
searching Google.
Have a phone number.
I've got his email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready for information on Damien?
Yep, I am.
Mother's maiden name is he banks with
Carly, this is the girl coming in now with the blue scarf.
What's her name? Nicholas.
Nicola. His date of birth, 7th May. She lives at 38A.
Just be a couple of seconds.
2 children, age 4 and 6. Previous address, she's got the postcode.
Yep, got it. Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor.
How do you know what that?
Where did you go to UCL? Martin went to South Thames College, assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street.
I don't really understand.
Oh, better.
You know I'm a Christian as well.
Oh yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
I love this video, especially seeing the look on people's faces when all this personal information is found out about them, and it's not that hard to find. A little story, last week or the week before, we were in Melbourne, my family and I were in Melbourne, and my husband took my daughter to a shopping centre. In the cab, she left her watch behind. It's an Apple Watch, so it's got Track My Apple Watch on it. We got back to the hotel and we watched the Apple Watch travel around the city until it was located outside a particular address. Using that address, I was able to locate the cab's name, phone number, and give them a call and say, hey, my daughter's watch is currently sitting outside the front of your house in your cab. Can we come and pick it up? The cab driver was extremely nice. He actually posted it to us, but being able to find that information so easily, it's because we think that no one's going to be looking for it. No one really cares what information we put out there. No one's going to be interested in me. But the fact is that information is out there. And if someone has targeted you, you're just helping that person to target you even further. Oops. So looking at a current scam example with regards to super funds. Scammers are currently pretending to be financial advisors and contacting people via phone or email. So not just phone or email, by both methods. They're setting up what looks like to be legitimate businesses, including fake websites. So when you go into your little bit of history onto them to make sure that they are legitimate, you're being directed to these wonderfully developed fake websites. Their investors are being encouraged to roll over their super funds. The only problem is, well, they've been encouraged on the grounds of 8 to 20% return, which is huge. Again, if it looks too big, good to be true, it probably is. To give them credibility, scammers are spoofing legitimate company names. So they could be calling you and saying, hey, I'm from ActiveSuper. Or they could be using names similar to legitimate Australian businesses. So, for example, it could be ActiveSupers. Super is then transferred to an account controlled by the scammers. In some cases, the scammers have made contact with investors and the investor has given the scammers enough information so they can take control of the account without authorization from the investor and take all the money out. They're quite sophisticated scams, but you need to be aware of them. If someone is calling you regarding your super fund, promising you high returns, we encourage you, well, if someone's calling you full stuff about your super fund, we encourage you to contact ActiveSuper and have a conversation. The last part of this presentation, we'll look at why are we seeing so many scams at the moment? The pandemic brought everyone online. So back to end of 2019, beginning of 2020, everyone went online. Traditionally, scams were seasonal. Well, we could say that around Christmas time, scammers were going to start targeting packages, mixed deliveries, missed deliveries, etc., and sending out emails that look at delivery, because everyone's doing deliveries around Christmas time. And again, around tax time, around this time of year, people would be seeing an increase of tax scams. But the pandemic increased the window of opportunity for scammers. Everyone is communicating online. We're working online. We're not leaving our homes as much, and online shopping has increased. So rather than have a couple of months in the year, scammers now have the full year to try and trick us. Financial institutes also went digital. So a couple of years ago, when you wanted to do something, you generally had to go into a financial institute, sign papers, bring in your documents. But with everyone being at home, financial institutes have taken everything online, which also has made things very convenient, but has given the scammers a new opportunity to try and trick us. So conclusion. I guess at this point in time, everyone will be basically asking, so with all this scam going on, how can we tell that it's a legitimate ActiveSuper contact? First and foremost, trust your instinct. If you haven't learned anything today, please just learn to trust your instinct. If something looks even slightly suspicious, and hopefully from now on in everything will look very suspicious to you, hang up if someone calls you and call back ActiveSuper on the number that you know to be ActiveSuper's. If you receive an email from ActiveSuper, don't trust the information in the email, call back using the number on the website. For your convenience, the ActiveSuper is also contact details or also on this slide. All ActiveSuper correspondence will have your member number, so make sure you know it. And ActiveSuper will ask you questions that are specific to you. We're not going to give away too much about how we do that because we don't want to be giving information away to scammers, but they will ask you questions that are specific. In terms of how we're protecting you, ActiveSuper takes your privacy and your security very seriously, hence the reason why I'm here today. But all seriousness, ActiveSuper has implemented multi-factor authentication to help protect you while using your member online portal. This is two-factor authentication, which means 2 types of login information. ActiveSuper also has alerts in place to protect members from scammers. So currently all your information is in a system, and if we see something that doesn't look quite right, we'll receive an alert and we'll contact you and ask you to confirm whether or not the activity is legitimate. And again, we're continuously working to implement new security controls, but we don't want to give anything away to scammers. I thought I'd finish today's presentation with some tips and tricks on how to protect yourself from scammers. Some of these might be quite self-evident, but some of these might be new to you, so I'll go over them. Think about what information you provide when you sign up to a service or download an app. Do you really need to give that information away? And if someone does end up with that information, can it be used against you to trick you? Can a threat actor guess your password through looking at your Facebook and Instagram profiles? A lot of people traditionally use their children's names or pets' names for passwords, birth dates and the like. We encourage you to choose unique passwords that have got some complexity, so aren't just, for example, Chantel, which is just a single name. Limit your social media exposure. Do you really need to post everything on social media? If you're going away, for example, perhaps it's best to post the pictures of your holiday when you return rather than that everyone in the world know that you're on holidays because your house is insecure and the like. Use multi-factor authentication when you can. So ActiveSuper have set this up on your portal, but you should also be looking to set it up on your banking, on your PayPal, on your personal email accounts. Whenever you can, use multi-factor authentication. Also, be alert to impersonators. Do not connect to public Wi-Fi if you can, instead tether to your phone. It's really easy to read information going over public Wi-Fi. So if you're logging on to your ActiveSuper account or your banking account, that information is generally clear, which means that anyone can actually see the password and information that you're logging in. It's also, remember, if it looks good, too good to be true, it probably is. Last bit of tips, lock your devices when not in use and also be wary of shoulder surfers. I encourage you not to log onto your internet or super phone when you're out and about in public, but if you are logging onto a sensitive area, please make sure no one is around you that can see your password information. Never reply to an email or text message with personal information. Instead, use a known phone number or website address and contact the institute yourself. Before you dispose or recycle, we love to recycle your device, make sure it's wiped. Don't give someone your device with all your email and other bits and pieces in there. A lot of the time we're actually relying on websites to remember our passwords, and the last thing we want to do is throw away a computer where someone logs on and they can instantly log onto your financial accounts. Always use unique passwords or a password manager such as LastPass. LastPass provides free personal use, I believe, so it will keep all your passwords in the one place and nice and safe. And always read the terms of service. Well, maybe not always, but at least try for the important applications that you use. Yeah. And in the presentation, there are some handy links for you to have a look at. Some of them around your privacy. If you think you've been part of a scam, or you want further information regarding a scam, if you think your identity is being lost, or there's also a link there to the password manager LastPass. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. That was really great. And even though I've seen some of those videos before, I just, it's always, a really good, sobering reminder, as you said. So now it's the time to hear from all of you. As I mentioned, if you do have any questions, you can submit them to events@activesuper.com.au. We do have a few questions that were submitted prior, so I just might pass those to you, Sarah, if you don't mind. Yep. The first question is, what's the best way to report a scam email? Do you forward it to the organisation that it was supposed to have come from, or where do I go?
So you can report it. If I go back to the previous screen there, you can report a scam to ScamWatch, and that's always great, so they can let the organisation know directly. So I would recommend, definitely ScamWatch, which is part of the ACCC, and there is a link there. So please report scam emails to them.
Cool, thank you. Next question is, how secure is accessing and making changes to one's super account via a mobile phone?
It all depends on how secure your mobile phone is. It's a bit of a trick question. Technically speaking, if you have used your mobile phone correctly, it shouldn't have any malware on it, and it should be quite safe. It's the same as any device, I guess, providing that you haven't downloaded any type of malicious malware onto your computer, or malware is malicious, then you should be safe. I quite often will use my phone. I have an Apple phone. I'll access my internet banking and my super fund through my Apple phone, and I feel quite secure and safe doing so. I also have two-factor authentication enabled for my banking, which gives me that extra bit of security.
That's actually another question, which is, what is two-factor or multi-factor authentication?
So anyone can guess a password. Two-factor authentication is a second layer of authentication, which usually comes in the form of a text message of a little code coming through. It could be biometric, so asking to look at your face or your fingerprint. It's generally a second way to log in. So you have your password, and then on top of your password, they're asking you to add a second layer of security. Going back to the data breaches and the like, a lot of people reuse their passwords, so those passwords are readily available on the dark web. If you have a second form of authentication, which is a number which is randomly generated, something like your face or something like your fingerprint, then that's not something that a fraudster can actually duplicate. So we encourage you. At the moment, we don't have passwords where we can constantly use biometrics, which would make it more difficult for a fraudster to actually get into your account. So we say two-factor authentication. Using your password plus the biometrics or a randomly produced number will protect you. It's actually probably the gold star in security at this point in time.
Okay, cool, thank you. In your presentation, you mentioned LastPass, sort of two questions. The first one is, how secure are password management systems like LastPass? And then the second part is the Apple password manager secure?
Okay, so there are some password managers out there that I would not recommend. I did say LastPass because it's actually free from what I understand, and that's why we've got it there on the presentation. There are a few more out there. I use one password personally. I, at this point in time, have no reason to believe that password managers aren't secure. There have been breaches in the past, and I understand that those breaches have been fixed and amended, and the applications are stronger than ever. So at this point in time, there's no reason to think that password managers, in fact, I recommend using a password manager. Generally, the encryption on a password manager is state of the art. It's quite strong, which makes the password manager quite secure. What was the second part of the question? I'm rambling and I've forgotten it.
No, it was Apple. So you know how Apple's got the Apple password manager. Is that secure, in your opinion?
There's no research to suggest otherwise. I also use the Apple password manager as well. I'm a bit of a little bit of this and a little bit of that type of person. On my computer, I have the password manager. On my own iPhone, I use the Apple password. So I use it. Again, there's no research or anything out there at this point in time to suggest that it isn't secure. So yeah, okay. In my mind, in my personal opinion, I'm happy to use it.
All right. So one, I think you mentioned was one password was the other one that I think it's paid, right?
Yeah, that one is paid. Yeah. But there's a couple out there. Do your research. If you are going to use password manager, whichever one you choose, make sure it's reputable. Look at the reviews, look at who's actually using it, what type of organizations are using it and the like, and also look at where it's being produced, who actually made it.
Cool. Next question. You know, when you go onto websites, particularly on your phone, it asks you to accept all cookies or minimize or manage. What would your advice be there?
It all depends. So the cookies are watching your behavior. I tend to not log on to anything like Google or any of those ones when I'm using my phone. That allows to track you even more thoroughly. So when you're logged on to anything like Google and you're searching the web, they're actually tracking your activity. If you're not logged on to anything, then the cookies are less of an issue because they've got nothing to tie those cookies back to. There's no username or person to tie those that information back to you. It all depends on what site you're going on to, where the site is situated. So I just say use common sense.
Okay. And what do you do? What would you recommend you do if you accidentally click on a link in an email that you think could be spam? Not spam, scam, sorry.
Is that
probably is spam that's a scam.
Yeah, spam is a scam. Yep. Look, number one, don't panic. Most likely, if you're clicking on a link, you're not automatically downloading malware onto your computer. You're more than likely going to a place where they're asking you for personal identifying information or asking you to log into something. If your computer does start to act quite strange, disconnect your computer from the network and basically go to if it's an Apple, go to an Apple store or go to another IT support store and ask for their assistance. If you do think you have actually downloaded malware onto your computer, please don't try and remove it yourself because you could make a bigger mess. I wouldn't even remove malware myself. I would take it to a professional shop or place to get it removed, just to be on the safe side. If it's ransomware, if you get automatically get a pop-up saying that your computer is locked, it's under ransom, then again, take it to an IT professional and get them to look at it. But first and foremost, disconnect it from the network, because if you're on your home network or a work network or anything like that, the malware could then spread. So it's very important that you isolate your computer from the rest of the network.
And is there a way to check your computer to see if you have malware?
Generally, antivirus software, you can do a scan using your antivirus software. So if you haven't got antivirus software, I encourage you to look into purchasing some. If you've got, a lot of the packages now come with some type of antivirus software, so most computers should. So if you've got, for example, Microsoft on your computer, you should have access to antivirus software that you can run on your computer. But technically speaking, it should be blocking anything coming onto your computer if you do have antivirus, unless it's a sophisticated type of malware.
Okay, and what about the phone? What if you accidentally click on a link from your phone that turns out to be a scam, or you think it's a scam?
Exactly the same. I would, turn it on flight mode and isolate it, and then go to a professional. Yeah.
Okay. All right, fantastic. So look, it looks like we got no more questions being emailed, but if you do think of something, I tend to sort of think of these things, in the quiet of the night when I can't sleep. You can always email us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to events@activesuper.com.au, and we'll get a response from Sarah and send that to you. Thank you very much, Sarah. Really appreciate your expertise and your continued support for our members. And thank you to all of those who've joined us. Stay safe, and thank you for being active in learning how to protect your super.